So this guy took his kayak from Florida Keys all the way back to Maryland.
You know we're live right now?
Oh, we're live? Oh, this guy took his kayak from the Florida Keys all the way back to Maryland.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
It is dangerous.
Yeah. I'm sure all kinds of cool stories for our guest. What is it?
I heard he body slammed an alligator.
No.
That's what I heard.
I'd like to see that footage.
Well, let's roll that intro so we can get to it.
Got off in town, resident on 70 Road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all right inside the grove. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen. Mr. Clark is a lawyer, he could live stream. He the first man to prove that water run upstream. You know I like Mr. Clark. Yeah, I should know he is my friend.
All right, what's going on, fishy friends? We are back with Lady C. How you doing tonight, Lady C?
I'm awesome. One more day.
One more. Oh, we got to save the drum roll until the end.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I got excited. Sorry.
One more day until what?
Our major fishing trip.
Yeah.
Is it 40 days, 40 nights?
40 days, 40 nights. Fishing most of them. Let's see if we still like fishing at the end of 40 days.
That's blasphemy.
That is blasphemy.
Who are you?
I don't know. I should just walk away and
Wow.
let her run the show tonight because of that. Tonight, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kayak Kevin Whitley, which we've been really excited about for quite a while. This guy's done more on a kayak than most people have done, I don't know what, on foot?
Probably.
Probably.
From some of the stories I heard, it's crazy.
Some good stuff. But before we get to that, just a little bit of housekeeping. Upcoming shows, we have Christine Fisher, Kayak Bass Fishing Tour. This girl's a flat out stud. I was looking through pictures of her from Facebook because she asked me to put her promo pic together for her. And there's a picture of her bow hunting a turkey. Now, I've done bow hunting, and that's some hardcore stuff. If you can bow hunt a turkey, yeah, you've earned your stud card.
You're giving way too much away.
Whoops.
We got some other surprises about Christine. They're pretty cool.
Plenty of other surprises. After that, we have Dana Tabarini. You want to tell us a little bit about Dana?
Oh, charter captain, guide. He has his own podcast out of North Carolina.
Also a stud down in North Carolina. Like he really can put you on some trout and all kinds of fish.
Yep.
Before we get too far, let's introduce our sponsors. We have GI Jigs. Tonight we'll feature the rain minnow. This is a 1 ounce rain minnow. On the Chesapeake Bay, these things are awesome for Spanish mackerel, but these things flat out catch everything. He's also coming out, and I should have had it with me, with a 1/2 ounce version of that, and that's going to be really great for shallow water. Also, Hook Optics, and I want to feature some of their glasses tonight. These are the Big Eye, right? I'm saying that right? Big Eye, yeah. And the Big Eye are made for big dudes like me. So I'm 6'3", 130 pounds, plus 100. And these things are made for big heads like mine, really big heads of really masculine, strong men with a fantastic physique.
Holy jeez. Okay.
Yeah, that's what these are made for, men like that. So
is that what that's about? All right then.
So pretty much custom made for guys like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Stud.
Yeah.
A lot going on over here.
Oh, that's me. Anyways, these glasses, like, it's really hard for people with a head the size that I have. I mean, I had to get a helmet special ordered. This is a true story. When I was playing high school football, I had to get a helmet special order for my head because I had such a big head. And these things really fit well. They're not resting on my cheeks. So Hook Optics is our other sponsor, and they make some really awesome glasses. They make glasses for normal size head people, or people with beautiful heads like yours.
Yes. Yeah. We're going to be wearing them on our trip. It's going to be exciting.
Lots of Hook Optics to be covering our faces. I can't see a thing without glasses, so I've got to return to these guys. But let's bring in my man. What's up? Let's bring in my man Kevin. Kayak Kevin, what's going on, brother?
All right.
How you doing?
Doing good. I'm glad to be on.
Guys, Kayak Kevin, if you haven't heard of him, you've been living under a rock. This guy is Virginia's first all-kayak saltwater expert angler, Virginia's first all-kayak saltwater master angler. Which one comes first, Kevin, the master or the expert?
Expert.
Expert comes first.
Yeah, expert is you guys have citations, the program in Maryland, right?
Yeah.
Do you have a master angler, expert angler program up there?
Maybe. I mean, I'm not a very good fisherman, so like I probably never even heard of that.
It's done the same way where it's your citations. So expert angler is actually harder than master angler. Expert angler, you only have a year to catch 6 citations. So 6 different species, 6 trophies of 6 different species.
Okay, well, we're not done yet though. So this guy's also completed 7 long distance tours, including a 600-mile Chesapeake Bay tour, which we'll get to this stuff in a second. But like compared to what you've told me, that 600-mile Chesapeake Bay tour is like nothing compared to what you've done.
But it was unique by itself, so I'll tell you about that. Very unique.
Here's what: longest tour from Pensacola, Florida, to Virginia, 1,800 miles in 4.5 months, in which he body slammed a crocodile during that. He wrote for Kayak Angler magazine and produced 4 DVDs. Guys, the reason why I was rushed, and Anastasia helped me put this whole thing together really, last minute tonight, is because I was trying to get Kevin one of the clips of the teasers for your DVDs, and I was trying to get it on here so I could show it, because guys, go check it out. Like, if it won't get you pumped up, nothing will. Because I mean, you're talking about medium light action fishing rods being bent all the way down into the water, giant fish.
Taking on water.
Yeah.
Taking on water in a kayak. It scares me to take on water when we're in the Merwin. I can't imagine taking on that much water in a kayak. I'd freak out.
The scuppers work. The scupper holes work. They drained it out eventually.
Well, how you doing tonight?
Doing all right.
What you been up to?
Working all day today. And it's actually I'm a marina forklift driver. So today was actually kind of like a summer day. So everybody was trying to it was a good warm up for the summer coming up. So that was, I had a good day. And it's fun when it's busy, because the action's going, you're constantly moving. So I like it when it's like that. It's been a cold winter sitting there all winter long.
Man, how many days out of the year on average are you more than 5 miles away from the water?
Well, I live about 500 yards from the water.
Oh, wow.
I can actually paddle to work.
That's a sweet deal.
Because everything we talked about during the pre-show, it was like your life is, you've dedicated your life to being around the water.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well,
prize?
Yeah. The prize.
We get carried away. See, we just want to get right into it.
I'm just starstruck.
We totally forgot about our audience and the prize and other stuff.
I'm like, what are you doing?
I'm like, Grant.
Kayak Kevin's right there.
No, we got some people saying hi.
Got some people saying hi. Yeah.
Cambo. Yeah. Who else we got?
What's up, Alan? We got Batista in the house.
Oh, nice.
Cambo Trout's here.
Yep.
Mike Armstrong says awesome DVDs.
He's got the DVDs.
Yeah, he does. So every night or every time we do this show, we have a prize for the best question that comes in. Guys, you have a wealth of knowledge here with Kayak Kevin, so plenty of opportunity to learn something new. Kayak Kevin's going to choose the question of the night, so it puts a little pressure on you, Kevin.
Yeah, I know. I had to get my glasses on to kind of read.
Right. Well, I'll read them out. So this pair of reading glasses will suffice for both of us. I'll read them out. But all you have to do is remember who asked the question, because that happens all the time. We get to the end of the night and it was like, what's that question about the red kayak? That one was pretty good. But Kevin, you want to announce the prize?
Yeah, kayak anglers donating a year subscription. That's one of them. That's a big one. And I'm giving away the DVDs, so I'll give the DVDs out.
Cool.
If they have a DVD player, I don't know if they have. Nobody has DVD players anymore.
Oh,
So
I do.
Well,
We on it out.
You know, it doesn't even matter if you have a DVD player, because you're going to sign it, right?
yeah, I can do that totally.
I mean, it'll look cool on the bookshelf.
Yeah.
There you go. Yep.
You know, it'll be personally signed over to you. So awesome prizes tonight, guys. So questions from the audience are always given priority. We actually already have one.
Oh my goodness.
From our boy Sam Tudor of Outdoors in Maryland. He asked, what's the worst and best thing that happened on your... Sam, you know I ask this question at the end of every night. All right, go ahead, steal my question. What's the best or worst thing that's ever happened to you on your kayak, Kevin?
I tell you that when I made Expert Angler, that paddle in was probably the most joyous paddle in, because Expert was hard. It was real difficult. It's more, like I said, it's more difficult than the Master Angler. So that I remember getting that one. It was hard too. It was a hard that day. My last fish was a tautog, which is just a hard trophy to get. You know, it's a hard one to get. And I missed one. I knew where they were. I knew some big ones were there. Saw a boat next to me get one, and I hooked one and broke them off. And it was hard not to just crumble, you know, at that moment, because it was, you know, the pressure of trying to be the first one to do it, and how much I was doing vacation days. I mean, really trying to get as much time on the water, because it's a tough chase with that timeline. You have to do it within a year. And it broke one off, and I after a second, you know, I got myself together, and once I got that one and got it in the boat, it was unreal. That was, and then paddling in, I was just like, yeah, just paddling in, all happy. It was that's always just a long, boring paddle anyway. But I remember that one was a special one. So that was a good one. And there's been lots of good ones, but that's particularly a good one, just because we were just talking about the Expert Angler Award. But worse, I tell you, probably the recent one, when my last tour that I didn't get to complete. I had lost too much weight. My body was starting to break down on me, and I pulled the plug on it after 16 weeks. So that one was a hard one. And so that was probably in recent times, that was probably the worst day, you know, the worst day when I pulled the plug on that one.
Wow. That hurts.
Yeah, it was rough.
Yeah.
I've been hooked up on fish. My first pickerel. Nothing like what you were going for, right? But it hurt. I was pulling it in on a broken lure. And it fell off. Haven't caught one since. Still on my list.
Yeah, and it's even worse when you see them.
Yes,
you know?
I did see him. He was at the kayak.
Yeah. And that was a new fish, like a new species for you too.
Yeah,
so like, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think I have cried on a boat once for a personal issue, but from losing a fish, I don't think I've ever shed a tear, but I've come close. I've had a few times where I like had my hand in my face in my hands for a few minutes and like told my friends to leave me alone for a while. You know?
With running video, I get to see all of my misses, you know. And I tell you what I do now is I just cast again. You know, just immediately I'll deal with that emotion late as I'm still working. You know, as long as I'll just, if I lose one, and especially like smallmouth fishing that I do now, they jump. So I see how big they are when they're flying through the air. My lure goes the other way, so I can't get to see them. And then I just immediately I don't let it like crush my heart too bad. I just make another cast and then like kind of weep a little bit while I'm fishing.
Well, you know, this lovely lady here does therapy. So
yeah, we could do a session.
She probably have a lot to say about right when you lose the big one, you go right back to fishing.
Yeah.
Something about compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
We can connect with those feelings and talk about it. Free consultation. But I have a question for you though. Now this question, it seems so small to the things that you've done, but how did you get your start in fishing?
I started pretty much my third day in a kayak, right? So my first getting into a kayak was touring aspiration. So I was leaving the musician life, and I'd done that for 20 years, and since I was 13 to 33, and I was leaving that. That was just going downhill. I could see the writing on the wall. I was kind of not getting in. I was not into it anymore. I didn't like the lifestyle is the main thing of it. So I miss playing with my friend. I miss being on stage and pounding out this music with my boys. But the lifestyle was killing me. I had to get out of it. I was at one point I was in 3 bands, practicing every night and playing every weekend, and I just was not seeing sunsets. I remember I was like, just a whole year I didn't even see a sunset. I was in the practice room the whole time, and it once I started kind of seeing it go, kind of starting to dwindle on me. I've always been a guy who kind of looked into seemed like 10 years or 20 years or so. I need a big challenge, and so I looked into what am I going to do? I've got like this lifestyle that's kind of gypsy-ish lifestyle where I was, trying to go on tour on with the band. And, and I remember I was looking into like most people do like the Appalachian Trail, right? Or something like that in that midlife crisis. It was 30s, so midlife crisis, but in that transition period, when you're leaving a lifestyle or you're leaving a life, and so I was looking into that, and I was like, well, most people drive across country or something like that, do a big trip like that, but I'm not a mechanic. I wouldn't be able to fix my car on the way out there if something broke down. Appalachian Trail, I got bad ankles and knees, so that wasn't going to do anything for me. But I've always, always liked the water. I've always lived around the water, always wanted to be around the water. And so I looked into the Intercoastal Waterway, and that's basically the water kayaking equivalent to walking the Appalachian Trail. So I looked into that more, and it was really just trying to find a kayak. So I didn't like sit inside kayaks. I tried them out, and I just didn't like the confinement of them. But when Ocean Kayak, around 2000, Ocean Kayak came out with a 16-foot long, like hybrid sit inside touring kayak, and it was called the Manta. And it actually had a cowling you could sit. It was a sit on top, but you had a cowling that would fit on top of it to make it a sit inside. So I never used the cowling, but that was my boat. It was between that and Wilderness Systems had the tarpon out 160 at the time too, and it was important to have both a stern hatch and a bow hatch. So that was for the gear for camping, for touring. So I looked at the tarpon, and the tarpon just didn't look like it would punch waves well enough. It was it was sleek and probably would paddle a lot better. But the Manta, had a little bit more rocker to it, and it had this weird like bow wing to it, right? And that's what they call the Manta. And that was supposed to like break the waves, but it didn't. It worked, but it also kind of dug in when you were surfing waves. So it wasn't the greatest design, but the boat itself was great because it was 16 foot long. It was a real long boat. And it was perfect for what I wanted to get into a kayak, and what I wanted to do was a tour. I mean, that was my whole reason to get into kayaking. And but by the third day, by the time like I said, I was living right here, 500 yards from the water, so I just wheel it down on a skateboard. Put it on a skateboard and wheel it down there, and I remember the first day I was just slapping the water with my paddle, it was just slapping hard, and ended up getting a book called it was ocean touring or kayak touring or something like that. I have one. I got another one. I gave that book away to a kid, but I have another one. But that one taught me how to paddle with the correct way to paddle, navigation, so crossings. It taught me a lot just in a simple book. This is way before internet. Didn't have internet, didn't have any access to anything like that. It was all just books and then asking people. And I was a kayak store here called Wild River Outfitters at the time, and I'll go in there and just like question people a lot. So that's how I got into the kayaking part. But the fishing was basically by the third time I was able to kind of get out to where these rocks are in my inlet here. I brought a fishing pole, and so it was just like, oh, this is cool. You know, this is really cool to fish out of this thing. And it wasn't called kayak fishing at the time. It was just fishing out of a kayak. Mm-hmm. And then eventually I started going to the HRBT, Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel, and it's right on the mouth of the James River. So a lot of current running through there and everything. And it was 3 years, almost 3 years before I went on my first tour. So I had that time period of what I was basically training. And I would go to Eastern Shore and go camp out, you know, try to learn how to navigate and everything. I had to learn a lot before I went on the tour. So I was really concentrating on learning as much as I could on how to tour and how to cross and how to do big water. But also fishing at the HRBT, I developed a lot of technique, just a lot of maneuvering technique because of the currents and the pilings and everything. So it really kind of got quick about the techniques and stuff. But it took, you know, forward paddling, your correct forward paddle motion took me about 3 years. It was still on my tour by the time I really kind of got it dialed down. But it was also, it's something that you have to practice constantly. You know, you can get lazy. I still get lazy, you know, 20 years in, I'll get lazy and I won't twist my torso and I'll realize I'm not pushing into my feet and I can feel it in my back and I'm like, I'm getting lazy. So even now you have to constantly kind of remind yourself. But the fishing part was like right then. I mean, my first fish out of a kayak was a croaker.
So you mentioned that, you know, this is all before the internet. So how, from a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a kayak fisherman was Abraham Lincoln?
I bet he was a canoe fisherman.
So you were a musician and you had a career, right? It sounds like you had a career going.
No, it wasn't. I mean, we were playing, we were, you know, professional, but I've never made enough money doing what I love to do to be able to quit working. So I've always had jobs, which surprises people a lot. Like, and I remember one time I was dating a girl and she had just gotten off work and she was like hanging out with people and she mentioned me and it was like, it was kind of, you know, I was on the come up, right? So people had kind of known about me, and the guy was like, yeah, I'd fish all the time too if I didn't have to work. And she was like, he worked today. He's just out there now while we're sitting here drinking a beer, you know? Mm-hmm. So it was just, I was obsessed with it. And before I started filming, I was doing fishing logs, and a couple of years in a row, I logged in 800 hours on the year, 800 hours of water time, and years there. You know,
and working.
So that's like, you know, charter captain, you know, time.
Right. Sure.
Well, what I want to know is your music available on iTunes now?
No.
I want to listen.
I just posted some up like right before this post, right before I posted about this. So it's on my Facebook and Instagram.
Really? Okay.
And 5 songs out in California in 2000 2000. Yeah. So I was actually in those photos when I, you know, on that show, I had just started kayaking. So I was still playing music until about my first tour.
Okay.
That's when kayaking really kind of took over. Because on my first tour, I was like, really, it was I was going to hate this or I was going to really love it. You know, it was something that was like, I was not going to do this ever again, or I was going to really kind of keep on doing it. And I remember like, and it was rough. It was a rough tour. I really like put myself through it. I mean, I didn't realize Georgia had 10-foot tides, you know?
Oh man, crazy tides down there. Yeah.
No, it was 2003. I didn't have any access of anything down there. You know, I had no idea. So I get in and that current's ripping. And, you know, my first day I sleep in a marsh and didn't realize and the water comes up and floods my, you know, I'm sleeping in the water. I wake up and I hear dolphins like right next to me. And I'm my kids' water, so it's all floating up and I'm just like sleeping there like this. And Yeah, I get out and there's gators all around me. So yeah, I really like it was like my boot camp, right? My first tour. I really like put myself out there. So I remember about 6 days in, I was like, what am I doing? You know, what am I doing out here? But then about 2 weeks in, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, that's a good one. What is it? What are you doing out there? What is it about being in a kayak and fishing that's so great? You know, you talked about missing sunsets and some other things, but what is it about fishing that really is just where you
and I only kayak fish. Everything else is boring to me.
Yeah.
Every like fishing from a boat. I work at a marina. I get offered to go out and boat all the time. I don't like being on a boat. I don't like fishing from shore. I don't all my friends, you know, my best friend Rick, he fishes, he catches a red from boat, kayak, and shore every spring. That's his goal, right?
Nice.
So he does that. So he goes out and surf fishes. I'll surf fish or I'll fish from the shore after I get there by kayak. So, but I fished on piers. You know, when I was injured one time, I had an injury and I had one. Okay, I'm just gonna go fishing. I'm gonna go fish from a pier, and I couldn't stand it. I just could not stand just sitting there. You know, I couldn't move. And in a boat,
I'm with you.
What?
I want to go.
Boring.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So boring.
And you know, in a kayak, even if you're together and you got 5 guys, you don't have to go all one spot. You know, you can go over there and he's like,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't have to wait on nobody. You know, if somebody's running late, I'm like, well, you know where I'm at. I'm paddling out. You know, I'll see you out there.
So if you want a little bit of peace and quiet, you just paddle over there.
Yeah. And that's another thing is I like. I've gotten to where it's I've been in some quiet places, man. You know, I've been in some places that are just incredibly quiet. And even nowadays I kind of get out away from the city. I don't even like fishing in my neighborhood anymore. I don't like hearing engine noise anymore. I want to get as far away as I can from all of it. So I like the rivers are good. And when I go way up the Eastern Shore, it's really good.
Yeah. I can relate to that too.
I got a question coming in from Big Yacker Fishing. What's up, buddy? He says, what is your favorite body of water to fish in, ocean or bay?
Bay. The ocean's cool and very unique. You'll see some crazy stuff out there. We used to go off the San a lot and fish off of there for reds, and you see some crazy stuff. But the bay it's just more happening in there, you know, in especially kayak range, right? So you know, a safe kayak range is, I would say, 3 miles. Right, so within 3 miles, you're going to be able to get back pretty good. Even if you get a storm or any bad stuff blows on you, it's going to come in. And because the first enemy for me is the wind, right? That's going to push me around. It's going to be the most thing I have to contend with out there is the wind, especially open water. So within 3 miles is safe, and everything. In every fish in the bay comes within that 3 miles of where we can get to. So it's the bay.
Yeah, the bay is really unique. We were watching a video last night where there's seals in the bay.
Yeah. On the third island. Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, I'm down here, right? I'm in Norfolk, so that's right here.
But so that doesn't surprise you.
No, and they've been out there for years. They come in every winter.
I had no idea. I felt like a huge noob. I've been here for, I don't know, coming up on 8 years. And that came up, and I was like, the Chesapeake Bay? I had no idea.
Yep, they just hang out on the like the third island, just hanging out there. Yep. And on the opposite end, right? So wintertime, we got seals. Every once in a while, we get a manatee that comes in here. It's every like 10 years or so, the manatee will just like roam into the bay. There's pictures of one in Little Creek Inlet back, you know, about 20 years ago. So every once in a while, you'll get a manatee kind of swimming through here. And I remember one year, some guy was you know, surf fishing off of Lynn Haven, and he said a manatee came by him when I was out there, and this was like maybe 15 years ago. So that's not as those seals come pretty much every year. Manatee, you know, summertime every once in a while.
Speaking of unusual run-ins out in the water, Sam from Outdoors in Maryland also asked, any bumps by a shark chasing your catch?
Absolutely. And some of the craziest behavior I've seen was from a shark that was trying to come down on a red that I had hooked up. So I was on the ocean side, and you know, one of my favorite things to do is target reds right in the surf. but not big swells, not big waves, but when it's low and it's in low tide, so the waves are broken down. It's one of my favorite things. Standing up in the surf, it's sketchy, fall in, it's summertime, it doesn't matter, right? So I hook a red, 26 little red, 26 inch or so, and I'm fighting him, and he darts underneath my kayak. I mean, just runs straight at me underneath my kayak. I'm like, well, and that's odd behavior right there. So I know something's up. Here comes a shark, probably about a 4-footer, and he's trying to get at it, and the red keeps trying to take off. I'm like, no, stay under my boat. I keep trying to yank him back and just stay under my boat. And this is the craziest behavior I've seen from a shark. I'm in about 3 foot of water. He circles the kayak multiple times, really fast, kicks up a bunch of sand, and now we can't see him. Now me and that red can't see where that shark is. He camouflaged himself circling around my kayak. And at that point I was a little shocked. And I was like, okay, this is like, he just completely disappeared from me. So I just took my paddle and banged it on my deck. Just banged it. And he finally took off, and I got the red up by the surf, and I said, just stay over here. Just, let him go. Just stay over here. Because that shark was hunting that day. And I had seen him earlier too. And I was hoping he had kind of moved down the beach, but I think he kind of heard, and that was like a couple little reds in where he had come back. But that was crazy behavior.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoy pier fishing and bank fishing too, but something like that you will totally miss from a boat. Yeah. That's great.
For sure.
That's another thing about fishing from a kayak.
Yeah.
You're part of the water.
Yeah.
Really, it's an intimacy with the water itself.
Yes.
Because I mean, I've been out there and boaters come up to me. What's the tide doing? How do you not know what the tide is? I know what the tide's doing because I'm dealing with it. Really dealing with it.
Yeah.
So it's you really connected. And through that connection, you'll start to see so much stuff. I mean, I've seen reds. Reds are my favorite because I've seen so much behavior from them and seen them react with me, with the other fish. I had one. I landed one. I've got this on video, but it's hard to I didn't post it because it's hard to kind of hear it. So what happened? These two reds were in a pair. I was sight casting to them. I caught the bigger one. Got him in, and I'm unhooking him. It was when I was part of the tagging program, so I'm tagging him, doing all the measurements, doing all that stuff. And he's thumping, but I'm also hearing a thumping out here, to my left, probably about 10 feet away. So I'm sitting down, so I really can't see anything. But I'm hearing thump, thump, thump out there, and he's going thump, 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 thump right here. When I finally get him in the water and release him, the other red came right up beside him, and they both took off. So that other red was waiting for him. So I've seen behaviors like this, which is it's crazy, and you wouldn't see that from a boat or anything like that. Because I'm part of the water, really part of the water. And as long as you don't move and don't make any sudden reactions, I mean, we can get really, really close to the fish, or to any animals out there. It's amazing.
Yeah. I feel like we're in church right now. I want to say, yeah, amen. Yes, so true.
I've been out there. I know exactly what you're saying when, boaters come up to you and ask you what's going on with the tide. But like, particularly if you're in a kayak and a good ways off the shore, like out where the bigger boats are, I've been fishing and being successful fishing and looked over my shoulder, and there's somebody on a center console watching me with binoculars, and I'm like, dude, you've got a 250 on the back of that thing. You can go wherever you want. But I think, and let me know if you agree, I think there's this sense that people that are in a kayak that far off of shore probably know what they're doing. Yeah.
And that took a long time for that to change, to turn around, because at the beginning it was not like that. Beginning, people were like, these kayakers, they don't fish any, they're not doing anything, and it's crazy because I saw that transition going from, boaters just like, blowing us off to like, what are they doing? And you can almost say that the inshore fishery, that's kind of, that whole targeting the marshes and all that stuff that's blown up over the last couple of years it wasn't happening before kayaking. You had a few guys that would go in there, but it wasn't as big as it was until kayakers started going in and really utilizing those spots, because in a kayak, we can't run. we fish an area, we have to fish that area. So we're going to fish thoroughly, and that's our day is in this area. So we're going to figure out what's going on there and how to fish it. And because we can't run 20 miles to the next spot, we're there for that day. So it's, and I think it took a while for people to kind of like, for boaters and the rest of the fishing community to get that, but they did.
Right on. Oh, looks like we have a question here. Oh, it's a big one. All right. So Robert Lombardi, following for years, you are a legend to anyone who knows the kayak community. What is your single most memorable fish or time kayak fishing? Absolutely nothing better. Yep.
Yeah, that last talk was a pretty good one. Particular fish. Let's see. Anything most memorable fish or time kayak, and that's hard. That's a hard one to answer after 20 years. You kind of narrow that one down. That's a hard one because there's so many of them, and this past year, I almost say that was like one of the best years, probably the best year I've had in 20 years. Even though my expert angler year was incredible for me because it was a hard challenge to do, but this past year was great, and it's hard to kind of narrow it down to a particular fish. I mean, my biggest red was cool, but it was still just a big red. It was just another step up from my last big red. Which my biggest red now is a 54 incher. Before that was a 53 incher. So it was. It all everything had like in steps, so it wasn't like I can't put a finger on a particular catch or time out there kayaking itself. That's a tough one.
He's going for the question of the evening with that one. He's got you stumped.
Bob Pino, actually the guy that brings us the Hook Optics, is one of the sponsors of the show. He sent me a question that only the sponsor gets to do offline, texted it to me. Right. But I thought it was an awesome question, so I'm asking it. What's better? What gives you a bigger adrenaline rush? At the end of a music show and the audience is yelling for one more song, or pulling in like a 50-inch bull red on a kayak?
That's a good
now the reds, of course. Yeah, that's pretty good. And rapids. Rapids have been kind of the new venture for me, doing these river runs and these rapids. I'm getting the same adrenaline rush that I used to have with skateboarding and snowboarding. So that's been pretty good for me. Reds, what I keep trying to do with reds is get that fight time shorter and shorter and shorter. So and even this year I've caught 58 reds this year, big reds. Big red for me is over 40 inches. So
we're not talking 2022 though, are you?
No, it's big reds over 40s.
I was like, if you're doing this in January, February, I'm impressed.
No, they're not here yet. We still got a month or so before they show up. We got to look for that 60-degree water temperature. That's what I'm waiting for. But yeah, the rapids have done it pretty good for me recently. Because you come off the rapid and you're like, half of it's like, woo, I made it, right? Woo, I made it, and then, whoa, that was cool. I had a really good line on it, and it hit that same adrenaline that I was getting from snowboarding and skateboarding when I was doing it back when I was in my 20s. Because
you stop during the rapids and catch smallies, right?
Yeah, and that's what I love about it, because it's not just like I live in Norfolk, so it's a 2-hour drive for me to get to a fall line, right? Appomattox is close, Appomattox, James, Fredericksburg, Rappahannock. And so I'm not going up there and just like fishing. Like I'm not going to travel that far to fish flat water and, just for smallies. It's got to be smallies with rapids. I've got to run some rapids, because if I get skunked by smallies, that's a long drive home. So if I can get skunked by smallies, I at least still have my fun on the rapids.
That's actually cool. Yeah, that's a nice insurance policy, right?
Yeah, it is. And these runs, I've got these fall line runs here are outstanding. I mean, I'm getting, at higher water, I'm running class 3 rapids in a fishing kayak. You know, I mean, I put thigh straps on and everything like that. But, you know, to have fishing poles out my back with a helmet on, charging through class 3s, making an eddy turn, making a quick eddy turn, grab my rod, making a cast and hooking a smallie. That's where it's at. That's where it's at.
Hey, what's up, Rashawn? What's going on, Tim?
Rashawn, Tim.
Tim that just logged on. So, you know, I think I talked to you in the pre-show. You know how really like watching your videos inspired me to start kayak fishing. You know, 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. But I'm really interested about this idea of like you kayak fishing before it was a thing, right? You know, and I think back to my first kayak when you sat on a seat that was right on the bottom of the kayak.
Yeah, mine's
your butt always got wet. But you know, so this idea of doing it before anyone else did it, and especially going out to CBBT before that was a thing, and boaters thinking you're crazy.
Yep.
Can you walk me through?
When we went out to pools, that's when people thought we were crazy. When we, I'll lead into that one, but yeah, that when I first started, you know, when I got my kayak, there was a picture of Jim Salmon's, you know, kayak fishing show, Jim Salmon's, and TV show. He had a picture of he was in a kayak and he had I guess a tuna underneath him, right? He was hooked up to a tuna, and you could see that in the picture that he was getting pulled because there's a weight coming off of his boat. So that immediately I was like, not only wow, can you fish out of these things, but you can fish big things out of these things and get pulled around. That was the whole kind of genesis of it. It was like you can get just yanked around by these things, right? Like when they would harpoon whales and just get they would stop the whales by riding them, right? You know, in their smaller wooden boats, they would ride them to wear them out. So I love that idea. And as soon as I mean, even small fish are going to pull you, right? And once I started realizing that, you know, really the pull was where what I loved about it, I started beefing up the gear, and so now I'm using like really kind of beefy gear for the fish I'm targeting, but I have no fear of breaking off, and I'm going to get pulled by them. So, and after my first tour, so my first 4 years, basically, I was fishing alone at the HRBT, right? So I was learning the techniques, learning before my first tour. When I went on my first tour, when I came back, kayak fishing was starting to pop up around here, right? There was Corey Ruth, and I went to a seminar about, you know, Corey Ruth, and he was talking about it. He had the first crate in the kayak that I'd seen. But at that point, I was just like using a backpack strapped to my boat. You know, it was just something to keep waters in. So I saw that and I was like, oh, cool. So he had that first kind of basic rigging of a fishing kayak and inset rod holders, all that type of stuff. And even before that, I was just strapping my fishing rod to my kayak, which it would just get eaten by the salt water by the time the tour was done. But that's how I did it. So I learned how to, you know, basically set up the kayak that way. And then I met Rick Burnley that year, 2004. So Rick Burnley is now Kayak Angler magazine editor. So that's basically, he makes that magazine. And at the time, the Fisherman magazine. So everybody up north would know the Fisherman magazine, that weekly one, or I think it was monthly or bi-monthly. They came out as a paper magazine. His dad ran that, and Rick also wrote for that. So Rick was a writer, but he also had experience in a boat, and from looking at the magazines, wanting to now step up to the bigger fish, because at this point at the HRBT, I had already gotten into my 30-inch fish, right? So I've gotten teens, now I've gotten 20-inch fish, now I'm working at 30-inch fish. Now I know, now I want to keep stepping up, right? And seeing these fish that are in the magazines, and Chesapeake Angler magazine, which was around here then, and that was the one I used to write for them later on. So I saw these, you know, these big reds in the magazine, and Rick knew how to get them. So that was so he had the fishing and the boating experience, and I had the kayaking experience. So that's we got together, and it was cool because I'm obsessed with maps. You know, I'm obsessed with maps, right? I've got them everywhere.
That's awesome.
As a kid, I was obsessed with maps. So we got together, we hung out, we went to his house and hung out, and we had charts out and everything. So we're looking at the charts and everything, and So we got to go out to these shoals. I'm like, as a kayaker, I've always kind of taught myself to stay away from shoals, right? I've gotten my first tour, I got sucked out into the ocean, into some shoals. And so my whole thing is like, stay away from all that stuff. And so he's saying, okay, we got to go in there and put baits out there and fish for these big reds. So I was like, okay, I know how to do it. Although I try to stay away from it, I know how to do this. So we went out there, and our first time, didn't quite catch a big one, caught a 38 or 39 incher. So now I'm even stepping up almost close to the big one. So the next year was 2005. I went on my big Florida tour. So I didn't fish reds that year, spring reds. This is before we knew about the fall run. And then 2006, finally got a big one, 43 incher was my first one. So
walk me through that. You're on a kayak, you hook into that first big one, right? And like, because I've hooked a good sized fish on a kayak, and when it's that one that you've never had on that big, there's a lot going through your head. But A, I don't want to get broken off.
Yeah.
B, yada yada yada. And then as that fish starts to tire, you're like, can I land this fish? So walk me through that.
Landing wasn't a problem because I'd already kind of landed enough fish to know, I just needed to know if they had teeth or not, right? That's where I want to know. And Rick, having experience with him, taught me about the handle, right? You go underneath the gill plates and you can put your fingers right underneath their chin, and there's a little slot in there you can actually grip them. So he had told me about that, and we had done that year before, 2 years before, when we went out there and caught that 39 incher. So I'd already kind of dealt with them. So it was a step up, right? So my 43 was just the next step up. And so we were anchored with baits out. So I drop anchor because don't want to be on anchor fighting this fish. I was more concerned about getting pulled into the shoals. Mm-hmm. So that was what I was more concerned about. I wasn't concerned about fighting the fish because I already fought, stripers at the HRBT up to 30. I think my biggest one at the HRBT was 32 inches. Caught lots of like the high 20s. So I knew how to get pulled around, and I knew what that was going to be like. It was just going to be bigger and faster. And really, I was just worried about him going to shoals. Later, we learned they don't really run straight into the shoals. They kind of hit the shallow and then veer off. So later, that fear wasn't an issue. But landing them wasn't a problem because our kayaks sit really low, and I already kind of had the leg scoop by then. So I was in the leg scoop. If you guys see any of my videos, I do it on every fish I land. I do it. I don't use the net, but as the fish is coming in, I'll put always fight off my left side. I'll put my left leg in the water, leader the fish basically between my kayak and my leg. And as I'm pulling up the fish, and either with the grab my lip with a striper or underneath the gill plate by a red, all I gotta do is lift my leg up a little bit. And once the main part of the head and shoulders is in the boat, he's in. That's it. And he only has to get up this high out of the water, right? So
it's a great landing technique. Go to Kayak Kevin's YouTube page. You can't miss it.
Yeah, it's everything.
When he's landing one of these big reds. I mean, it's a really simple way to do it, and also it looks pretty gentle to the fish.
Yeah.
I'm sure it takes some time to really master that technique now. Just kind of rodeoing the fish in and getting
having them come in the right direction. And with feet in the water, sometimes the line will hit, so you got to watch the line. Mm-hmm. And really, the leg scoop developed from flounder fishing, because they're so you never want to get them out of the water. You always got to get the net underneath them. So when I started flounder fishing, or at the HRBT in those early days, everybody would say, you got to have a net. You got to have a net. Well, I realized if they touch your leg, they almost pop out of the water. Huh. So a lot of times I've had them, as I'm going for the scoop, they touch my leg, they'll jump over to the other side. So it was originally called the flounder scoop because it was all about the flounder. But then as I got bigger fish, it was just easier to do it with that too.
Wow, that's a good story.
Man, you've got some flounder in those videos that I'm like, is that a halibut or a flounder?
Well, I think it's time to give the audience a chance to win the prize tonight. Yeah,
go ahead.
Got some good questions.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me see here. Oh, Jeffrey. Sorry, I can't see that far.
You want me to read it?
No, I got it. how was the transition from, what is that? Marley Sound into the Pungo on the kayak, and what was the most interesting thing that you saw on the Pungo?
Yep, they so that he's talking about the tour coming up through North Carolina.
Okay.
And all my tours I've done inside, so the intercoastal waterway, or when I came up to Carolina, I would skim the the backside of the Barrier Islands as I was coming up. So as I coming through Admiral Sound, as I got more into Currituck and as I started going into Pungo area up towards Virginia, the water snakes, that place was crazy with water snakes. I mean, it was like they were just everywhere. And also on, I think it was my Florida tour. I'd come through there a couple of times on my Florida tour. Had northeast winds and it blew all the water out of there. So I was like basically camping on the bottom of the sound, waiting, and finally the winds kind of came back and they gave me some water to kind of get out of there. But that was crazy, and the snakes through there was crazy. And gar, saw a lot of gar, like big long-nosed gar through there.
And whenever I hear you talk about these tours, I think about, somebody in the audience help me out. Is that book that turned into a movie about the Indian kid that got stuck on the boat with the tiger?
Oh, right.
Oh, The Life of Pi.
Yeah.
Love that.
I
movie,
know what you're talking about.
I'm just picturing Kayak Kevin like out there with like the most chapped lips you've ever seen.
Well, I tell you, man, my neck got it bad off that big Florida tour because it was before face masks. It was before that, so I was wearing a big hat, and I would take a piece of a shirt and super glue it on the back. You see it now, and actually construction workers have that kind of like a piece of cloth hanging down off their big hats, which I should have patented that back in the day because that's that was a great idea. And I came up 15 years ago, but so before face mask, my neck used to be purple. Before face mask, it was so sunburned all the time. It was just purple. So that was through my chapped lips, just my neck was getting it bad. It was the worst thing. And then finally they came out face mask, and I even had a little piece, burn off my ear just recently. So I'm already entering the stage of my life.
Well, if you didn't already have a nickname, I would call you Pi from now on.
That's right. That's that kid's name. That's it. Yep.
Do we have time for another question?
We got plenty.
Okay, cool.
Not going anywhere.
Good.
Go ahead.
Okay. Tommy. Hey, Tommy. What's your gear setup to land bull reds quicker?
That's a question of the night competitor right there, because he was just talking about how he's trying to land them quicker. So somebody's listening.
Yes, he was paying attention.
When we first started, before video, it felt like we were taking, it's a 15-minute long fight, right? It always felt like it was like just a long time. It's just like, getting pulled around, and just felt like a long time. And then once we started filming, we realized that all these fights were under 6 minutes, either 6 minutes or under, and usually about 5 to 6 minutes. And so the gear is the kayak, right? I want a kayak that's has a lot of rocker to it, so it spins real easily. Back in the day, it was the drifter. It was real wide kayak, real low, all of them low seats kayaks, but it had a lot of rocker to it. So rocker is like that, right? So the bottom of the boat, if you sit the boat on flat ground, the nose and the keel or the stern is actually off the ground. So that's why I use my prowler when I'm fighting big fish now, when I'm fighting big reds now. The Trident is a little bit flatter, tracks better, so it paddles straight line better. Tracking is when you're paddling. So when I'm paddling this side, the boat turns this way, right? So it's your nose kind of does this. Better tracking, your nose is going to stay straight, and that's going to be more proficient and better for your distance paddling. So the Trident's better for that, but the Prowler is better for going through waves and fighting fish because it spins really easy because it has all that rocker to it. So that's my first piece of gear. So it's not just a kayak, it's actually part of my fish fighting gear is the kayak itself.
Nice.
So then it's the rod setup. I'm using musky rods. Either I'm using a boat rod or musky rods. So these really heavy, heavy rods, parabolic bends to them. So it's a lot of torque to it. But I'm also using 65-pound braid and 80-pound leader. So I'm not breaking off. There's no way I'm going to break off. So I can completely torque down and even, torque down. I'm using Saltus reels. So the bigger kind of conventional style reels. So I can really torque that down. I think the silver ones have 20 pounds of pressure and the black one has 30, which is too much. 20 is pretty much it.
Mhm.
I've had that 30-pound pressure cranked down with a striper, and it pretty much almost flipped me because he got down. My rod was pretty much straight in the water, and then my boat started at least listing like this. And I reached down and back off the drag to get him to get back right again. 20 pounds is just right. And if you need any more than that, what I do is I thumb the line onto either put pressure on the line with my thumb or actually straight thumb it to the foregrip, and that will just lock the drag down. So I don't have to constantly control the drag. So that heavy gear with that heavy rod, I can get the actual torque to get pulled really fast. So I had a really good example of that is a video I did from this fall called Sprint Mode Red. So it's on YouTube. It's just a few down called Sprint Mode Big Red. And on that first run, he breaks away from the drag, right? So I'm at the piling and I hook him and we kind of come off the piling a little bit. And he takes off on a little quick sprint. And then on the second sprint, before he goes on that second sprint, I start bearing down on him. And as he's pulling, I'm bearing down on him, and my kayak has already got a little bit of momentum. And when he starts sprinting, I bow down and start pulling back up, and I just basically slingshot my kayak towards him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm using the rod, using the fish, and using my kayak to shoot myself at the fish. And then he's just going straight line sprinting. So this fish is just straight line sprinting. I'm just locked down on him because at that moment, he's not breaking away any more drag. He's using my kayak. I'm using my kayak as the drag. And then reds will notoriously do the cutback, right? So they're going straight line to straight line. All of a sudden, boom, they're coming back the other way. And it always makes you feel like, oh, I just lost them. Nope, just did a 180. I mean, these fish can turn on a dime and turn right back at you at full clip.
Yeah. Yeah. I was blown away recently when I saw just how fast a redfish is. They're very fast fish.
Yeah.
They look like these lumbering beasts, but they can move.
Oh, and the torque they have. I mean, you know, when you touch a striper and you touch a red, you can feel the denseness of the red, right? The musculature of the red. And through this heavy tackle, I feel every bit of that. I feel every head shake. I feel every flinch of his muscle because I'm using the 80, 65-pound braid, right? I'm attached to him by a rope, a rope, and he's not going to break off. So I can really put as much pressure as I can to him. So this year, I advanced this year with the 58 reds that I caught. By the end of the year, I was finishing them in under 4 minutes at the bridge, and
Wow.
For the water. It's incredible. And it's just you. I saw guys out there, and the guy was out there, and he looked like he was just using a trout rod, right? And I go, I thought he was targeting sheep's head or something like that. And I said, "What are you targeting?" He said, "Reds." I said, "What do you have? What are you using?" He said, 40-pound test. I said, "Why are you using 40-pound test?" He said, "I can't feel the bite." I'm like, "You can't feel the bite? They don't miss. They don't nibble. There's no nibble with a red. They slam it. They try to kill that bait on impact. There's no missing. There's no nibbling. So it's just, I was like, man. And of course, he didn't know me. He had no idea who I was or nothing like that. It's just the new guys who don't look back, right? They all
You didn't big dog them. You didn't. You weren't like, do you know who I am?
Shocked. I was so shocked.
Who I am.
40-pound test. I was just like, oh, I just felt bad.
Yeah.
Because one, he's going to break off. He's around the pilings, and that's another reason for using that heavy stuff around the fall run at the bridge, because when that lighter line, if it touches that piling before you let off the pressure, it's going to break. At least I have a chance that line's not going to break on the piling when I let off the pressure. And there's a technique for that. We call it the space fish scramble. So we hook a red around the pilings, and as soon as if he wraps the piling, or he immediately, as soon as I feel that line touch the piling, I put in a free spool. So that's another reason why I use those reels with the not the thumb clutch, but the actual lever clutch. It's not a lever drag, but it's the lever clutch. So put in a free spool and paddle through, and then come out the other side and then pick it up and then see if he's still there. most of the time they're still going to be hooked up. But if you don't go into free spool and you're tight on that piling, you're going to break off. It's like guaranteed to break off. And we learned that through spade fish and sheepshead fishing. You know, the spade fish scramble. But it's fast. You got to do it really fast. And if you have 40-pound test, I mean, these fish can put 80 pounds of pressure on you in a fight. You know, it's just they're as fast as they're pulling me. I'm not a big guy. I mean, you know, you're 6-something. I'm 5'8" and 170. You know. And my boat's not that heavy, but I'm putting a lot of weight on them, you know, and they can put so much pressure on you, you know. So it's not overkill to target them with 80-pound or 65-pound braid. And 80-pound leader is mainly because it's more comfortable on your hands when you do the leader wrap. 60-pound is fine, you can get away with that, but it's not going to break. But I've broken 50-pound braid. He just snapped it.
Wow, that's
striper
and braid is a lot stronger than, you know, mono or fluoro.
But 50's not enough. 50's not enough, especially if you're really trying to fight them and really trying to get that kayak fight where you're getting pulled, because that's really what it's all about. Yeah. If you're going to kayak targeting big fish, the whole thing is to get pulled around by them, right? I think people miss that when in pedal boats because they pedal behind them, and that's like anti-kayak fishing. You want to get pulled, like. And you can fight them in like a kayak in a pedal drive. Just take your feet off the pedals, flip your rudder up, and go, because they will take you. Even in a heavier boat, they're still going to pull you around. They're still going to pull you around. You'll fight them faster. You'll get them released faster. It's better for the fish because you know they don't take breaks like cobia and shark do. You know they'll take breaks on you. Reds are going to fight straight through. So they're at the top and they're done.
For sure, I know that for sure.
Yeah.
7 minutes to get the red that I caught?
Yeah, and you caught like
oh my gosh.
7 of them that day. Yeah.
That's
I love the fight. I think I had bruises in multiple places on my body trying to fight. It was the fight that was the best part. Yeah.
Rashawn, we got you, brother. We're gonna ask the question now.
It's really about the fight.
Yeah. So Rashawn brings up a good question. He says, Kevin, can you explain to everyone your release practices with redfish?
Good question.
Yep. Yeah. I did a video about it for the fall run. In the springtime, it's not so much of an issue. So you can just kind of release them your normal way, hold them by the tail, and they'll kick off in the springtime. For some reason, at the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel in the fall, they have an air bladder issue. I mean, every single one of them. And it's not just a kayak; it's everybody who catches them out there. There's an air bladder issue. And I mean, it's bad. It's bad enough where people have seen rows of dead reds floating out to the ocean. You know, it's that bad. Mm-hmm. But this technique that I guess developed or came up with works. It works every time, but it's tough to do, and you have to do it correctly. So the main thing is getting them going forward. Well, first have a boga grip. And I say this to everybody: don't even target them in this fall out there at the bridge unless you have a boga grip, because you have to have a boga grip, because you can't just put them in the water or in a net and let them go. Mm-hmm. It's not going to work. Their air bladders just blow up and they can't control it. So you got to have a boga grip, and you got to be going forward with them. You can't go back and forth with them. And another big thing is they have to be upright. You can't lay them on the sides. That's not going to work for them. They have to be upright, going forward, and for me, you know, in a paddling kayak, it's a little tough. You have to do the one-arm technique, but I've got that down, so it's not a big issue. But for the pedal boats, you can just stick your hand in the water, but you have to keep them upright. And I've recovered boat reds because they have a hard time, because in a boat, you're hanging over the gunnel. It's super uncomfortable. It's really tough to do. Mm-hmm. And trying to, with a boga grip, and you have to have them upright, so you're trying to twist that boga grip up. You know, a lot of guys try to do it in the net, and it just doesn't work. So I've recovered, and my recovery video, I show that. I actually show I'm recovering the red. I put them on a boga grip, put them back in the water, get them going, boom, it kicks off. And it doesn't take that long. And when you see their pec fins come out, right? So when they're still kind of, for some reason, they just lose their balance with their air bladder like that. But once their pec fins start coming out and they kind of look like airplanes, right? They start to yank on you a little bit, they're ready to go. And I pop the boga grip, take off.
What's the name of that video that has the recovery in it? I was going to see if I could post it for the audience.
Yeah, it's how to release how to release big reds at the CBBT, something like that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go find that link. We have another question that Anastasia, I think, is going to read.
All right. Jeffrey, I came up the intercoastal on a 40, sorry. All right. I came up the intercoastal on a 40-foot troller. It took us about a month. I can't imagine doing it on a kayak. Hats off to you.
Thank you.
How did the locks work on the kayak?
I skipped the locks as I came through. As I got into Virginia, there's what's called the Virginia Beach Ditch. So what this does is go through West Neck Creek. You know, if you're in Virginia, if you've been on there, as the intercoastal turns, as it comes up and turns west, there's a creek that kind of goes straight north into Lynn Haven. So I can connect from the intercoastal waterway to Lynn Haven through that. But it's a ditch. It's a real ditch. I mean, jumping over logs ditch, right? And what this ditch was going to be a connecting the Oceana Naval Air Base to the intercoastal waterway. So they dug it originally to do that, and then they just kind of abandoned it and didn't do it anymore. But it's still connected, and you can still paddle from Lynn Haven to the intercoastal waterway. Mm-hmm. And that's the route I took when I came up. So I didn't have to do the locks.
Cool. I could not find that video quickly, Kevin, but what's that?
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, and we'll post it. Mm-hmm. But you know, his channel has a ton of fantastic information.
Wow. Action-packed videos.
Action.
Like,
that is for sure.
Roll stuff. I go straight to it.
I love it. I love it.
And I mean, our buddy Sam again commented. He said, "I can feel the fish fight when you were talking about that fish fight."
Yes.
And I completely agree. I had the tinglies going when you were talking about that. Mm-hmm. So let's see. What's your gear? We already did that one. All right. I think it is time for the question of the night. So let's
already?
get it.
Wow.
It is 8:07. Okay. It's already there. Do a drum roll. This drum roll, Kayak Kevin, is for you to think of the question. So if you need me to make it nice and long, let me know.
The one that stumped me, right?
Yes.
Good one. I mean, that one, I couldn't pinpoint a particular one. That was, yeah. Well, I might think of it tomorrow. You know, I'm off tomorrow, so I'm gonna be
Which
on.
One was the one
that was all in the beginning.
Let's see. It's not the worst and best thing that happened on your kayak.
No.
Any bumps by a shark? Favorite body of water? Oh, we missed one question. I think it was a joke. Kyle Lovett asked, "Have you invented a ray-proof lure yet?"
I actually did. I actually did. I basically when trolling for big reds, you know, in the springtime, we'll troll for them if you don't see them, and the area is thick with rays. I mean, it's bad. And like really, we won't cast if you see fins or something like that. We will not cast until we positively identify that those are reds, because we've lost just too many. And rays will wear you out. Mm-hmm. You know, they're great if you haven't caught a big fish yet and you want to get what it feels like.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I don't want. It just wear you out. It just wear you out because they want you're not going to get your lure back, right? No. You're going to break your rod if you are going to try to get your lure back. Yep. So I did actually make a ray resistant. It's not ray proof, but it was ray resistant. So I use these big jig heads for the big reds, and they got really stout hooks on them where you can't bend them. We put so much pressure on them, I had to get really stout hooks. So I'll take these big 12-inch shads, right? Slit the tops of them like a weedless bait, and angle the hook in there so it would stay like right inside that slit on top of it. So then when a red would hit it, it would pop out. So basically a weedless 12-inch swim shad. But yeah, it works.
I have my own run-ins with rays, and I can't really tell the story about how I got sick of it and got my lure back, because if I did, I'd have animal rights activists out in front of my door.
Oh my gosh!
I was like, I had lost probably $150 in like 3 days to raise several years back, and I was like, I'm not losing this one.
Yeah. And what's funny is
It involved a buck knife.
oh, I believe it. I believe it. What's funny is, you know, when you hook, when you haven't caught a lot of them yet, and you hook into one, man, you get excited because it's
Yeah, you do.
a big fish. You know, you know it's something big. You're going for a ride, and then it sticks to the bottom.
Yeah.
And you're sitting there yanking on it, and why is this red not moving?
Kevin, was the question of the night? Robert Lombardi's following you for years. What is your single most memorable fish
Yes.
or time kayak fishing? Was that it?
I think it was that one.
Yeah, that one's so
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
All right, Robert, if you're still here, send me your. We'll reach out to you, Robert.
Yeah.
And we'll get you the autographed DVD set and the year subscription to what's Kayak Angler. Is that right?
Kayak
Kayak
Kevin
magazine. Yep.
Mhm.
That's a big magazine, big international magazine. So yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Well, Kevin, man, it's been a blast. Like
Thank you.
I really had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Man, it's been a long time since I've been on a podcast. I used to do one before the tour, and let me just address, like, a lot of people recently have gone like, "Oh, you're back." Well, you know, I didn't really go anywhere. What happened was after my last tour, I was beaten by the wind on that one. The wind was bad. So not only that tour, but 20 years of it. So I needed a little break. So when I got back, I wanted to go run the rivers because I had run the river like one or two times before that tour. And I was like, oh, that's nice. You know, I can get in there and I can kind of get out of the wind. The wind's not going to stop you out there, right? The wind stops you out here. The wind's not going to stop you out there. It sucks, but it's not going to stop you. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do that and just kind of get out of the wind, just take a little break. And then I got into it. You know, I was dating a girl, Brandy, and she was a river runner, great smallmouth fisherman. So she really kind of showed me the ropes on it. And then we broke up. I was really in love with it at that point.
Oh.
So basically 2018, I took off of the saltwater. Besides reds, I still targeted spring and fall reds. Basically to concentrate on the rivers, which was a great year to do it because it was the wettest year on record. So all the rivers had water in them. I got to run the rivers at all these different levels, which was my step. And, you know, always, I like to put in the work, right? I like to put in the work and work my way up to something rather than just try to do it, because I feel like I get a more of appreciation and I learn more on those steps on the way to it. Mm-hmm. So that's what like the river levels, I would do it every half foot. So every 6 inches I would go. And it was, if I went and it was too much, I wouldn't go. I would wait till it was the next step. So 2018, I took off and did that. And also the video lapse there, I transitioned between my big camcorder videos, which all the DVDs were the last. Yeah, you saw those.
Mm-hmm.
Big giant.
If we had time tonight, I was going to be like, dude, how'd you get a camcorder on the boat?
The rigging thing, right? So we would attach our crates with zip ties and so tight that you could pick the entire kayak with the crate. So then we would attach tripods zip tied to that. So I could pick up the entire kayak by this tripod. So it was real stable. So that's how we rigged it. That's how we rigged it, because you couldn't just do a regular like GoPro style rigging, because it would break off, right?
Right.
We over zip tied these things to really secure them on there. So that's how we did that. So
you should have gotten sponsored by Zip Ties.
I spent a lot of money on this. Should. So in 2018, I was doing the rivers. I couldn't film with those big cameras, so I started filming with my still camera, but it didn't have wide enough view, so the video sucked. I couldn't see the rapids. So I film from my own education, right? The whole reason why we got so good at fighting reds and fighting big fish is because we were filming reviewing the film like it was like a football team would, because I would learn these fish, how they would fight, like the cutback. We were noticing that all the time. We're like, okay, this happens every time. And then the way the boat reacts to the fish. I mean, we would learn from our own videos. So the same thing with the rapids. I couldn't see the rapids, because when I'm going through the rapids, when I flip, I'm not really sure what happened. right? All of a sudden, I just know, oh, I'm upside down. Why am I in the water? You know?
Right.
So I look back at the video. It's like, oh, I hit that rock I didn't see there. So now I know that rock's there. Next time at that level, I just learned something. So we did that. So I needed to keep filming, but those cameras my still camera just wasn't working, wasn't wide enough. So finally got some cameras that I think they're Olympus tracker cameras, like, you know, the sport cam style, right? The fisheye lenses. I don't like GoPros because I don't like their software and how you have to deal with them. I just don't like them that much. I had one the first year we started filming because I was learning how to edit and stuff. So I was using that for like my weekly reports. I was learning how to edit from that. So it took a while for me to get these cameras dialed in, to get them right, to figure out, you know, which one's going to be right, how to set them to where I could run them for a long time, because at first I could only run them for 7 minutes. Now I got them for almost 20 minutes, so I can get full fights now, right? It just took me a while of transition period between old cameras transitioning to new cameras, and also I took a little bit of time to kind of get into the rivers, you know. So don't call it a comeback. Been here for years.
Don't call it a comeback.
OG.
Man, that term has come up time and time again in the chat tonight.
OG.
You are the OG. You are the OG.
Yeah,
Kevin, it has been an awesome pleasure.
I never stopped. I just took a little break from the salt, and not a full break because I was still talking to Reds. Still had great years that year, like 40 something Reds. Still been out.
Well, I would love to get an opportunity to fish with you, whether it be on a river or the bay or a lake or, gosh, a puddle behind someone's house.
Boring for me. Lakes are way too boring for me. Not enough kayaking in the lakes to keep me interested in that. I used to do it with my buddy, my buddy Tex. We would do it early spring just to try to, catch that first fish of the year.
Yeah.
And man, it would.
So boring.
It was just all fishing. There was no kayaking to it.
Right.
There was no kayaking. There was no. I mean, maybe some wind, but it wasn't even that bad. It wasn't enough of a challenge for me to like really get into it. I mean, bass are cool. It's cool, and they're cool, especially when they get bigger. They're amazing looking, and the way they hit and all that, the whole techniques and all that stuff are great. But the environment itself is just too boring for me, because for me I gotta have kayaking and fishing. I choose areas where I'm going to paddle 6 miles.
Yeah, you should target largemouth down in Lake Okeechobee in Florida.
Yeah,
you'd have all the paddling you want there.
Yeah. But that's what I gotta have the kayaking and the fishing together, and that's what kayak fishing is to me. It's the kayaking and the fishing.
Awesome. Well, it's been such an honor to speak with you, and thanks to everyone in the audience for some really cool questions.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lombardi, we will have your prize in the mail to you very soon. Kevin, you're the man. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for this, man. For real, this is. I've been looking forward to this, and happy to talk to people again. So it's cool.
Yeah. Don't call it a comeback. That's awesome, guys. We had a great time, and we'll catch you next week. Christine Fisher.
Oh, this week.
I'm sorry, this week. Yeah, this is a double header this week.
Yeah.
Tuesday, 2 days from today. We'll be right back at you.
Yeah.
Town, resident on 70 Road. Got a nice wife and kids, y'all right inside the grove. You know I like Miss Clark. Yeah, she know he is my friend. Say if I just stay out the grave, he'll see that I don't go to the pen. Miss Clark is a lawyer.